Hey guys, I'm Ava, and let's talk about Pokemon. Today we're going to talk about what is actually a pretty sensitive topic, and that's going to be modern versus sealed. So I just kind of wanted to make this video so that we could kind of have a chat, you and me, about this. I think that it is a pretty contentious topic that I'm guaranteed to offend half of the audience every time I mention in a video. So what sparked my desire to make this video was actually being on the Pokenomics stream on Monday. And thanks so much to everyone who came and showed up or just left a comment. The reception was really positive, and I'm just really glad that everyone enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed it as well. It's interesting hearing someone else's perspective. And I think there are little details that we might disagree on, but the conclusion that I think we ultimately came to is that it does depend on the individual. And really what I want to convey in this video is that it doesn't matter whether you're looking at this from purely a collecting standpoint, investing, speculating, whatever you want to call it, there is a place for modern and for vintage. When I was talking to Pokenomics, I told him how I didn't understand why anyone would want to buy, base set Chansey Hollows, that type of thing. I just don't get it because it doesn't appeal to me at all. I get certain cards and certain Pokemon. And of course, I do have some vintage cards in my collection, but for me, it's not about the fact that it's vintage, it's about the things that make me like the card outside of that. So for me, that's the Pokemon, of course, the art, and I really prefer hand-drawn art, so that's kind of why I'm drawn to a lot of vintage cards, but also to a lot of these new alt arts, which have these beautiful artworks that are clearly made by hand. I don't like the CGI of the EXs and the level Xs and whatnot. It just doesn't do it for me. So for me personally, I don't have any nostalgic attachment to WotC, but that doesn't mean other people don't, and it doesn't mean they shouldn't. A lot of people are a lot older than me. I'm only 21 if you didn't know. So for me, I didn't grow up with base set, being my first exposure to Pokemon, and I don't get the nostalgia that other people have. And I think this is something that's really interesting to talk about and something I want to offer my perspective on. A lot of times in these videos, I feel like people are trying to psychoanalyze the next generation of Pokemon collectors and whether or not they'll just want vintage. Will vintage be king forever? And they're trying to analyze people my age or maybe a little bit younger. And I can offer you my perspective right now. And I'm just one individual. Again, it really does depend. But for me, I like vintage and I see the value in it because it's cool that they are the original, and I do like the look of the cards, but it's not the end-all be-all for me. There are many modern cards that I like more than many vintage cards, and this is my personal opinion. So we're gonna keep going with this train of thought, okay? So for me, vintage is not king, right? I do see the value in it, and I see it as being something that I could have in my collection forever and not worrying that people are going to get bored of it. Whereas, certain modern cards, we don't know if they're going to have that same effect. For me personally, I'm not particularly nostalgic for the first cards I grew up with, which is the end of the first EX era and then really going into the Diamond and Pearl era. I don't have particular nostalgia for those cards, aside from maybe legend cards, but again, specific ones have really beautiful hand-drawn art, which I just adore. And so for me, the specific era I grew up with didn't really imprint on me like I think, WotC did on a lot of other people. But I do have nostalgia for some things. I like the black and white era. I wasn't when I first started collecting or anything, but I do remember the first time that I saw a full art and I just thought it was so cool. However, those don't drive, my main collecting goals. So I just wanted to give you guys an example of someone who doesn't explicitly value vintage over modern. And the reason I think this is important is because we're talking about the long-term potential. So from an investing perspective, what it suggests to me is that there will always be a place for vintage. I was talking to Jake and he said that all of those cards are very special to him. And that's totally fair. And I think those always will be to a lot of the people who grew up with base set. But then there are going to be new people coming in, people like me, and they are not going to value those things in the same way. And by that, I just mean value them purely for the nostalgia and for the fact that they are WotC. I clearly have some WotC cards that I love and adore. I'm not just gonna buy these hollows because they are WotC hollows. And I think there's a place for modern as well. If we're talking about modern sealed, for example, I personally like to buy this because it feels lower risk to me because the cost basis is so low, and that does matter to me a lot. But again, this is my personal preference. So really what I would like people to take away from this video is that there is a place for everything, and I don't think that someone else choosing to buy things that are modern or vintage necessarily invalidates your choice to buy what you prefer. You should really, really focus on buying what you prefer, because this is a hobby and there is a chance that, you know, all this could be worthless one day. And I think that if you have things that you are just happy to own, you will definitely be happier than someone who was hoarding something they didn't really like. So I really hope that we can all just respectfully disagree on this, because we are all going to. It's hard for me to convey this in every single video, so I wanted to make one specific one on this. A lot of times I will be talking about modern sealed product because I think that it is the most universally useful information, because there is a very large amount of people who are going to be buying modern sealed product, whereas singles are so much more personal and individual. And again, I don't buy that much vintage sealed. However, I say that, and I spent $2,500 this month on some PSA 10 first edition Neo Genesis packs. So clearly, there are exceptions to every rule. You know, I will still buy sealed vintage occasionally, but for me, again, I prefer a low-cost basis. This is my preferred investing style. I don't care if I'm missing out on potential higher gains. For me, the most important thing is to minimize downside. So I prefer to buy things at a low-cost basis that are things I believe in and I think are underappreciated by the market. There are great examples of vintage things that have done incredibly well, but there are also things like that for modern. You can do either one and succeed. It really depends on, you know, your funds, how good you are at it, whether you're willing to stick it out or not. So I really want to stress that I cannot recommend modern over vintage or vice versa, because there are going to be great opportunities in either of these. I firmly believe that. I think that there will always be a place for modern, and modern is constantly changing. You know, one day today's modern will be semi-vintage. But when I say that, I'm talking about the cards that are coming out right now. But I can promise you there are cards coming out right now that I will want still 10 years from now. And I think that probably goes for a lot of other people as well. So there will always be cards that are desirable. There are cards that I love all throughout Pokemon history. You know, I love e-readers, I love legends. You know, there are also some duds though. Breaks, not the move. Personally, I won't ever want those no matter how expensive they get. But again, we're allowed to disagree. You can like breaks. There's no problem with that. It doesn't diminish my enjoyment of what I like anymore. And I hope what I like doesn't diminish your enjoyment. And then again, from the investing perspective, we can look at Pokemon, and there are so many examples of winners that are modern and vintage. You can find data to support either side. That's the thing. You can Google right now why vintage is king. You can Google why modern is better than vintage. You'll find so many results for both. And the data that they provide, assuming there's data, and even maybe just if they're just reasoning and giving their opinion, can all be valid. There's not really one right way to do this. And also, it's a bit more nuanced, right? As I was saying earlier, there are winners and losers throughout Pokemon history. So there is going to be some vintage that has amazing returns, but that also goes for modern as well. So really, it depends on what you enjoy. And the thing that you like might very well be the thing that you're best at, because you have your fingers on the pulse for whatever subsect of the market that is, whatever subsect of the hobby. You probably know it better than most people. If you prefer vintage singles, you might be able to see and snap up deals before other people are able to. If you like modern sealed, you probably know a lot of great resources to get things affordably, and you probably have a good sense of what products are actually good versus things that are not so good. Because again, not all vintage is created equal and not all modern is created equal. It doesn't matter if we're talking sealed or singles. This just is true. So you don't have to stick to either one. You know, I think there's a place for both. There's a place for vintage and ultra modern and everything in between. I have all of them in my collection, and I will continue to accumulate all of them. So I really wanted to make this video as an olive branch to people who feel like the videos I make don't align with their personal goals, and that's totally okay. I can only give my perspective, and even the data I give, I can only give my interpretation. Someone else could look at the exact same data and give you a different interpretation that can still be very, very valid. So I can only give you my perspective and my opinion. So don't buy something just because I'm buying it, and don't not buy something just because I wouldn't. It's really about you and what works for you. Again, from the investing perspective, there are different investing strategies for different people that work better for them. So for example, risk tolerance is one of the most obvious ones. People have different risk tolerances, and that's absolutely okay. It depends on what their goals are and their personal comfort level. Another great example would be stocks versus bonds, or a mixture of both. And one that always comes to my mind would be dividends. That's another one I think of. You know, I personally don't like dividends, but I can see why someone else would and why it would help give them peace of mind. I can't begrudge them for that, and I'm not going to get mad at them for doing that. So I don't think we need to be personally offended when someone likes different Pokemon cards than we do or believes in them more, because we're more likely to believe in the things that we personally like, which is fair. You know, we all vote with our dollars, so we're saying what we like by what we buy. And again, you should be buying what is going to be best for you within your means and going to give you the most happiness and not add stress to your life. This is a hobby. It's meant to be fun. If you're hoarding things that you don't love, you are going to be so stressed out by every little change in the price of those things, which is also why I don't recommend looking at the prices of the things you own that often. Even in my actual investing accounts, don't look at them every day or every week, and I definitely don't look at the prices of my Pokemon cards every week or every month even for any given item. You know, I think that if you kind of just sit back and enjoy what you have, I'd rather see you looking at your cards than at the prices of them. I think you'll be so much happier that way. Even if you care about ROI, you can still operate this way and you will probably be happier, and you might do better because you will be more relaxed and in a better state of mind. I just wanted to make this video because I can't talk about it on my channel all the time, and I'm only going to be able to talk so much, even though I talk a lot, but I'm mostly going to focus on things that I like and I'm interested in. And again, about those things, I'm going to give my opinion, which might not be yours, but don't let me make you decide whether or not you buy something just because I'm buying it or if I don't like it. You can like whatever you like, and also if you care about returns, you can probably do well with whatever you like. If you really want to make money in this hobby, there are so many ways to do it, whether that's flipping, starting an actual storefront, having an online store, anything. There are so many ways to do it. For me, I like to keep this as a hobby, so I don't want to be selling things all the time. I like to just have things that I can have for a long time and enjoy, and then maybe sell one day down the road if I ever want to. So please take everything I say, and other YouTubers as well, with a grain of salt, and use it more so to give yourself some more information so you can make more informed decisions based off of your personal preferences. And I think that will work out the best for you, because a lot of times, informed decisions tend to be pretty good ones. And if they're aligned with what you like, you can win on both fronts. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and so much for supporting me. It's really been amazing these past few weeks. Everyone has been incredibly supportive, and it really makes this all worthwhile. I really enjoy talking to you guys, and all of the live streams and, all of the other creators on here have been really, really nice, and I'm just really glad to be able to be a part of this. And again, don't get your panties in a bunch based off of what other people are buying. Just focus on what you enjoy. And if you see people getting upset, you don't have to get upset in turn. Obviously, we all have control over our emotions and actions. And now is the time that I have to plug my Patreon. That's my action that I'm controlling. We have only 6 more people to go before we can start our community portfolio, which I'm so excited for. So a special thank you to my patrons, especially Mythic Timmy and Pancake Analysis. Thank you guys so much. You make all of these videos possible. And also, if you want to support me in a way that's free to you, I will have my eBay and Amazon affiliate links linked down in the description. They're free to you, but if you click through them and then buy anything on those sites, I do get a small percentage, which would be very appreciated. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to give this video a like or a dislike. Subscribe, comment below what you prefer, if you have a preference for modern or vintage, or if you don't have a preference between either, that's absolutely fine as well. And just remember, we all like to collect the same shiny cardboard, and isn't that really what's most important?